Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at TCL's QM7K, which is the newest model in TCL's precise dimming lineup. It's a kind of TV that's positioned right in the sweet spot, more capable than a budget panel, but not quite into flagship pricing territory. It comes in 5 sizes starting at 55 inches all the way up to 98 inches. Now I've been testing the 65-inch version, and while TCL is pitching this as its mid-range TV in the lineup, there are some surprisingly premium touches packed in here, so let's dig in. Alright, starting with the design. If you've seen the QM6K, the QM7K is going to feel pretty familiar. You get the same slim, brushed gunmetal bezel around the top and sides, with the premium QD mini LED badge now on the back instead of the front. Instead of the feet you get with the QM6K though, you get a center stand that I think looks better than the dual feet. This year, TCL made the stand height adjustable, which is a nice touch. You get 2 positions, one lower profile and one that raises the screen just enough to make room for a soundbar. The panel itself is a bit thicker, coming in at 2.3 inches deep. The screen has somewhat of a glossy finish, but TCL has added an anti-reflective coating to help with the glare. I tested this in a fairly bright room, and while it's not matte like Samsung's latest OLEDs, it holds up better than I expected for a glossy panel. The QM7K supports just about every major HDR format, including Dolby Vision, HDR10+, HDR10, HLG, and even IMAX Enhanced. Around back, the rear panel features a matte checkerboard texture. TCL swapped out the Onkyo Tune 2.1 system for a new design from Bang & Olufsen. It includes 2 10-watt speakers along with a built-in 20-watt subwoofer. Dolby Atmos and DTS Virtual-X are supported. All the inputs are side-facing and easily accessible. There are 4 HDMI ports, with HDMI 1 and 2 handling 4K at 144Hz or 1080p at 240Hz. HDMI 3 and 4 support 4K at 60Hz, while HDMI 4 includes eARC. There's also one USB 3.0, one USB 2.0, an optical out, and an Ethernet port. In terms of software, the QM7K runs on Google TV 12, and the experience feels pretty polished overall. If you've used Google TV before, this one's not going to throw any surprises at you. The home screen still revolves around content recommendations, with rows like top picks for you and suggestions pulled from across your subscribed services. You also got quick access to apps like Netflix, Prime Video, Apple TV Plus, and Hulu right out of the box. Navigation is smooth, and I didn't run into any slowdowns or hiccups while scrolling around or opening apps. It also supports Apple AirPlay and HomeKit and works with Alexa, so you're covered no matter what ecosystem you prefer. Now onto the picture quality. Let's start with brightness, because that's one of the most noticeable upgrades. The QM7K measured 1706 nits peak brightness in HDR filmmaker mode with dynamic tone mapping set to balanced on a 10% window after calibration, with sustained brightness around 1633 nits. For SDR, it still puts out around 1500 nits on a 10% window. That extra headroom gives HDR content more punch. Watching the neon lit skyline during the Hong Kong battle scene in Godzilla vs. Kong, specular highlights had plenty of pop without blowing out the surrounding detail. Bright scenes feel dynamic, but the panel doesn't crush shadow detail either, though in some darker material like 1917, I did notice that the TV lifts shadows slightly. Even without calibration though, colors are vibrant and well balanced. The TV does a good job managing contrast and brightness. TCL's quantum dot layer helps with color performance. It covers 71.58% of Rec 2020, which is pretty good for a TV at this price point. Viewing angles were better than I expected. I was already pretty impressed with the QM6K, and the QM7K holds up just as well, if not better. Color and brightness only start to shift past about the 34-degree off-axis mark. Upscaling and clarity continue to be good for TCL. The QM7K uses the same AIPQ Pro processor that powered last year's QM851G. Standard Blu-rays look sharp and clean. Even low-res content, such as an NBA game streaming on YouTube TV, held up surprisingly well with decent detail and not too much noise. Motion handling on the QM7K is pretty solid. Blur and jitter reduction settings do a solid job at smoothing out motion, especially on lower bitrate content. That said, cranking them too high starts to bring out a little bit of soap opera effect. I found that setting both to around 3 was the sweet spot for me. Pushing them up to 6 or 7 did make motion a bit smoother, but also started to look less natural. Contrast and blooming control on the QM7K are both good, especially for a TV in this price range. I measured native contrast at 8,122 to 1, which is solid for a mini LED panel using an HVA type display. The TV uses 966 local dimming zones, and blooming was surprisingly minimal during my viewing. Sitting directly in front of the screen, I had a hard time spotting any obvious haloing. It was only when I moved off to the side and started intentionally looking for it that I noticed some faint blooming around bright objects on dark backgrounds. But even then, it wasn't too distracting. Audio on TVs is usually an afterthought, but the QM7K does a better job than most. I didn't have any major complaints about the Onkyo setup on the QM6K, but I actually prefer the Bang & Olufsen system here. The built-in subwoofer gives the low end a little more punch, the mids sound clean, and the highs are detailed enough to keep dialogue and effects sounding clear. When I reviewed the QM6K about a month ago, it felt like a strong first step for TCL's new precise dimming lineup. It was a solid performer, especially for the price. Now after spending time with the QM7K, it's clear that this model takes things further in all the right ways. You get a real bump in brightness, improved color accuracy, and some meaningful hardware upgrades, like better local dimming and a more capable built-in audio system. It offers enough refinement and performance to please more demanding viewers while still keeping the price within reach. And for what you're getting here, the TCL QM7K earns an AVS Forum Top Choice for 2025. If you found this review helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.